it's Sharon Armstrong, TxStampin Sharon. I'm bringing you another inspiration idea that I have from my Alaskan cruise swabs. I've had a blast doing this, and I hope that you will like this card as well as my inspiration card. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, do so below. After you do that, hit the little bell, and then you'll know the next time I upload a video. So here's my card. So my inspiration card from my Alaskan cruise was this card. And since I don't have Rooted in Nature yet, but I have another tree set, I decided this was my inspiration card and I was gonna just change up some of the colors, and let me show you what my card looks like now. So I used the tree from the stamp set that has been around forever called Lovely as a Tree. I've been a demonstrator for almost 21 years and I can't remember never having this tree in our offering. So I want to show you what that stamp set looks like. Move this out of the way. So this stamp set in the current catalog is on page 148. And so here it is. So I'll be using this tree. This set of trees makes a beautiful scenery set. And you can also, when you're looking at the catalog, you can see different ideas that the artists have done with that stamp set. So I have my stamp and I'm using the new shaded spruce. Isn't that typical for a tree? Called it shaded spruce. And I'm also using a stamp set because Lovely as a Tree doesn't have any sentiment, so I had to go pull some sentiment. So I'm using the stamp called Thank You Kindly. I thought that sounded like a real Texas word. Thank you kindly, ma'am. For those of you who may not know, I was in Texas for 40 years and never thought I would ever leave. However, job change brought me to Southern Arizona. But my name is TxStampin because I never thought I would leave Texas. So my trick for you today is I'm going to ink up the whole tree using the shaded spruce ink pad, like I said, and then I'm going to pull out my blender pen because there is a tree trunk that runs through this, and tree trunks are not normally green. They're normally brown. So I'm just going to take my my blender pen, and I'm going along the line of the tree, and then so see, here's where I've been playing. So then you want to wipe off your blender pen until it's fairly clean, and it's got a lot of ink on it, as you can tell. Our ink pads are nice and juicy, so I'm going to do it again. And I'm kind of turning my blender pen a little bit. Just getting as much of that off as I can. And I'm gonna do it one more time. And I'm sure you can't tell on the video, but I'm seeing more red rubber show through. My stamp set, is very well loved. I've had this stamp set for years. And that's why I didn't even show you the case that it came in, because you would laugh. It's such an old style case. But Lovely as a Tree, you know, it's just been one of those favorites for a long time. Now, even though my tip is greenish, it will absorb back into the blender pen. And now I'm going to take a clean side and I'm going to do it again. Just trying to get all that ink off. I could have done it a different way, where I actually used the marker to color on there. And that certainly, and I will show you that technique the next time we stamp this card. So now I'm going to take my soft suede marker and I'm just going to go along that trunk. And I'm okay if it's not so dark brown. To me, it looks more artsy if it kind of blends a little bit. All right, so there's a technique called huffing. And according in the stamping world, I'm just going to be exhaling on the stamp, so pardon my exhaling. But I'm basically re-moistening the dried marker, because the Stampin' Right markers are water-based and they dry just as fast as your coloring. All right, so you can kind of see that I still have a little bit of green, but I'm okay with that. So let me just clean off my stamp and I will show you what I mean by my other technique. So now I'm gonna stamp my card again, and this time I'm going to take, and my stamp is all clean, even though it doesn't look it, and I'm going to just follow the trunk with my soft suede. So it kind of stops right there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and color the bottom. And then I'm gonna bring in my shaded spruce marker. You know, one of the first techniques I learned 21 years ago as a Stampin' Up demonstrator was to use the markers directly onto the stamp. And I thought that was like the coolest thing ever, that it would work. And sometimes I forget that technique. And so I'm always happy to play around with some old techniques that I've not forgotten, but just don't use as often, I guess, because there's so many techniques to use. So I'm gonna just color that in. And I think you may like this way better, so that's why I'm glad I'm showing it to you. It kind of blends in there. Again, a little bit of hot air. I have quite a bit of hot air sometimes. I like to hold my stamp there for just a few seconds to let all of that ink get into the cardstock. All right, so now I'm going to show you the difference. This one is more of a green trunk. This one is more of a soft suede trunk. So the other thing that you could do, or I could do, is come back in with my marker and just green that up a little bit. Green that up, brown that up, listen to me. So in doing that, I'm gonna end up coloring in my trunk. Again, I'm okay with that. You know, every time I make a card, they always look different. I'm gonna close this up so I don't make a mess. To save time for the video, I took my paper to my Big Shot and I cut out 2 circles. So I have a bit of a ring and then I have my centerpiece. Depending on what image you use for this will depend on what of the layering circles you use. So the thing that I wanted to share with you is that I'm going to take the foam adhesive strips, and it pretty much uses an entire strip. So I'm just going to take and add this to my circle. And give that a little snip. If you didn't want to use the whole piece like I did, you could cut pieces of it, I guess. But I just felt like it was easier just to do it this way. All right, so I got it started. So I'm going to start to pull that off, and I'm going to bring in my silicone mat. Those of you who have watched me before know that I love my silicone mat. And the reason that I'm bringing it in is because I don't want my foam to stick to anything while I add my ribbon. So I'm using the shaded spruce. This comes in a dual ribbon pack. That's in the 2018 annual catalog, and I will have that information for you in all of the information in the links below on the YouTube video. So just gonna tie this on. I could have tied it on before I added the adhesive, but I figured out that the adhesive helps hold my ribbon where I want it. And that's always helpful. turn that just a little bit. I always like to leave my ribbon on the bolt. I found that it's less waste that way. You know, we want that precious ribbon. We don't want to waste any of it. Okay, so let's get our card base ready. So I'm going to be using a tool that I came to this world with, and that is called my fingers. I'm going to tear the corner of this paper. Now you could tear it away from you or you could tear it towards you, and depending on how you tear it, you will get different looks. So give that a try if you've never done torn edge. Okay, so then I'm going to bring in, this is my next layer, and I want this to matte, okay? So I know I need to tear off quite a bit, so I'm going to start about right here. So see how I'm kind of eyeballing it? I'm coming in about 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to tear it away from me. Tearing it away, I have more control, and I'm trying to give it more of a zigzag, ragged look. This is a great masculine card. Do you guys find it hard to make masculine cards? I do. I think it's because we have so many pretty flowers and stamp sets that just are geared more towards women. So I have my card base, and my card will fold this way. Let me get my bone folder out. Now on my inspiration card, she used another extra layer, but with my tree and my sentiment, I didn't have room to do that. So it just depends on what you're using to make your card like this. By the way, I would love to hear your comments on my inspiration cards, so make sure you let me know in the comments below what you think. So I'm going to go ahead and mount this. And before I go any further and I forget, we're going to decorate the inside of the card. We're going to use another piece of soft suede. And this time I'm not tearing it. I'm just placing it in just like this. And then with my other tree, layer that I did, I'm going to layer this right here. So now I still have plenty of room to write my sentiment. So now let's finish up the front. So we have our pieces that we cut out, and I've done it 2 different ways. I've added this in first and then this. I have found that it's really easiest to add this piece first, and I want to match the top of my tree and the bottom of my tree when I add this in. So kind of turn that just a little bit. Place that right there. We're going to add some snail. And then we're going to pop this piece in. And I can kind of turn it and make sure my tree lines up. All right. Last thing we need to do is add our sentiment. And I really recommend that you do the sentiment first. Sometimes when I'm making the videos, I kind of get ahead of myself. You know, there's this wonderful thing that the Stampin' Up cardstock comes 2-sided. In case you make a mistake, you could flip it over. So I do recommend you doing that, but like I said, I got a little ahead of myself. Plus with my little bit of height right here, I might not be able to get this stamped well. We'll see how I do. Huh. Well, thank you kindly, it worked. What do you think about my inspiration card? I love both cards. All I did was change up the colors, changed up my ribbon. So thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to spend it with me. And I hope this card inspires you to make one of your own.